All right, welcome back, everybody. Here we are with the bonus or the bonus video for issue 38. So, as always, before we get going into everything in here, let's bounce it over to the desk and we will look at the details and the data. All right, so here we are with the details and the data. So this was for issue 38. We had a total of 2 videos. We worked on the boarding ramp. Our total build time was 2 hours and 12 minutes and 5 seconds. We had a total of 5 video captures. The video capture time was an hour and 37 minutes, and total video time between those 2 videos was an hour and 1 minute. We did 8 screws. We glued 3 things. I mean, it's hard to say, count the number of things, but we put the little flappy flap on. If you wanted to, you could count that as 2 pieces, I suppose, but I only counted that as 1. And then we glued those 2 blocks on the sides there of the boarding ramp. We used primer and insignia white were the 2 colors that we used. I didn't count the little bit of uh, try the attempt for texturing. I didn't count that, so no harm, no foul there. And you can see that part 1 was 31 minutes and 39 seconds. Part 2 was 29 minutes and 45 seconds. And if we look here at our different capture times, we had one for 17 minutes, one for 13 minutes, one for 12 minutes, and then the last 2 got to be longer. So we had 28 minutes and 25 minutes. And so obviously that means because we got our total video time down to just over an hour, that means we did a lot of editing. We had extra 36 minutes that we had to edit out. And then, of course, we tack on another 35 minutes on the end of that. And so that's how we got the 2 hours and 12 minutes. So total build videos now is up to 56. We have still 5 videos for the most of any one issue. Our total captures are up to 165. Total build times 28 hours and 26 minutes. Our total video time. Total build time is up to 88 hours and 40 minutes. So we're almost up to 90 hours now. Average build time is at 30 minutes and 28 seconds. And our shortest is still 15. We've glued a total of 448 pieces, while 252 screws being applied. And we did not use any micro brushes. It's actually wrong. We did use 1. So let's up that to 1 because we did do some gluing. So we used a micro brush for that. And so that's all for this one. All right, so let's bounce back to the magazine and see what's going on in this issue. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So here we are with the details and the data. And there we are with the details and the data. And let's go ahead and get going on what's in this magazine here. So we're going to start off with the Imperial troop transport, the Sentinel Class Landing Craft. And so this was designed by the CNR Fleet Systems and the Cygus Space Works. It's considered a landing craft. It's 38 meters long. It's got a speed of 70 megalights in space and 1,000 kilometers per hour planetary atmosphere. Its engines are the Cygus HD7. It's got a Class 1 hyperdrive. It's affiliated with the Galactic Empire, which makes complete sense. It's got a wide array of weapons, and it has 1 crew. Or for the crew, it's got 1 pilot, a co-pilot, slash sensor operator, and 3 gunners. And it can carry up to 75 troops, and the cargo capacity is 180 tons. So, yeah, that's pretty significant. So it's much like the Lambda-class shuttle on which the larger ship was based, and it uses a versatile 3-wing layout, very much like the Lambda-class. So you have the stationary center wing, and then these 2 will fold up, or as they say, articulated flanking wings. The Sinar fleet systems had been shipwrights to the Galactic Empire since the fall of the Old Republic, and its Lambda-class shuttle was a versatile vessel that had already been the basis of another derivative, the formidable Alpha-class XG-1 Starwing assault gunship. So I'm going to see if I can find a picture. If I can, I'll pop that up there. Bringing in a dedicated design team from the smaller Saiga Spaceworks enabled Sinar to develop a versatile landing craft very quickly to meet the needs of the Imperial fleet. Yeah, so this thing had a lot of uses and it was very versatile. The Empire had a need to transport squads of troops or landing military equipment normally at a very short notice. Because of this, that's why they developed this. Uh, they needed something that was going to be not only be a starship but atmosphere capable transport vessel. But it wasn't until the Sentinel class came along that they found a ship that they could depend on in all situations. It was considered tough. It was high speed, landing craft, and deployed quickly from the hangar of a Star Destroyer and travel down through a planetary atmosphere to make landfall almost anywhere. So again, we talked about its speed and all that kind of stuff, and so that was pretty significant. The speed of the Sentinel class was equivalent of the Rebel Alliance's Y-wing, which proved crucial when the Empire needed to make a rapid deployment of troops and their hardware in a crisis zone or to deliver supplies behind the lines in battle for combat purposes. Tough and well equipped. Although it was derived from the Lambda class shuttle, the folding wing configuration and separate cockpit module date right back to the Theta class shuttle, and I'll try to find a picture of the Theta class shuttle. Unlike its predecessors, the hull is heavily armored with 25% heavier plating than the Lambda class. The ship is also equipped with 4 deflector shield projectors and a comprehensive sensor suite, which allows the ship to operate in nearly all conditions. Despite its size and weight, the Sentinel class Cygnus HD7 engine array make it fast and agile. So this is going to talk about the Sentinel class here, and so basically you would see this in the special edition of A New Hope, and it kind of talks about this not as the fact that it was part of the special edition, but the crisis following the theft of the plans of the Death Star was typical of the short, rapid reaction role for which the Empire developed the Sentinel-class landing craft. A number of these vessels had been dispatched to the desert world of Tatooine, where they deployed sand troopers and their dewback mounts to search for the missing plans. So it's actually probably the first place you would have seen it was in the special edition of A New Hope. They added that in there. So that was kind of significant. Now this part was interesting. It's 38 meters long, which I mentioned before, which makes it almost double the length of the Lambda class. So it's quite a bit larger. Let me see. It can have concussion missiles and all that kind of stuff. It facilitates rapid unloading of the ship's cargo bay. If you wanted to have 2 droid crew members instead of, say, some gunners or something to help speed things along. During flight, the Sentinel class deploys its 2 drop-down wings, adds some maneuverability and all that kind of fun stuff. Escape from the Inquisitor. Now, you would have seen one of these in Rebels, and so Fort Annex was an old Republic military base built on the surface of the asteroid PM-1203. After the Clone Wars ended, the base was left abandoned and fell into disrepair, leaving a colony of predatory silicone-based Furnox to nest in the ruins. Sometime later, Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger flew to the base in the Phantom, hoping to remove a tracking device planted by the Imperials to lure the Inquisitor pursuing the Lothal rebels into a trap at the same time. The Inquisitor soon located the rebels and arrived in a Sentinel Class Landing Craft with a squad of stormtroopers. When the two sides confronted each other, the Inquisitor defeated Kanan and tried to lure Ezra to the dark side, but the Padawan used his power to summon a giant fire knock to distract the opponent long enough for himself and Kanan to escape. And during his escape from Annex, Kanan Jarrus blew up the Imperial Sentinel-class transport, leaving the Inquisitor stranded on the base. So that's pretty significant. In our behind the scenes, the Sentinel Class Landing Craft was first seen in the 1997 special edition of A New Hope. I just mentioned that. Where its mission was to deploy the Sand Troopers to Tatooine to search for the droids R2-D2 and 3PO. In 2014, the ship would go on to appear on screen numerous times in Star Wars Rebels, although this made it a relatively new arrival in the Star Wars canon. The design of the Sentinel was derived from the Lambda-class ship seen in 1983's Return of the Jedi, which in turn was based on some very early concepts by Joe Johnston, Ralph McQuarrie, and Nilo Rodis Jamero. As a result, this aspect of Star Wars Rebels was a design aesthetic very close to that of the first Star Wars films in 1970s. So there you go. And that's what the drawing was. This was the concept art for first appearance of the Sentinel class. Uh, has an obvious debt to the earlier shuttle design by Ralph McQuarrie and others. And so from this, it looks like I don't know if this was by design at this point or if it's actually how it works, but this would fold up, looks like. But this does look a little bit beefier than what it actually was, so I'm guessing that was just the concept art and they, refined it as time went on. Let's talk about the Sentinel Species of Endor. So the Ewok data, their average height is 1 meter. Their average weight is 50 kilograms. Their skin color is brown. The hair color is white, brown, or black. Their furry, short stature, acute sense of smell, and their language is Ewokanese. So, of course, we know about the Ewoks. But one of the interesting things about how it breaks this down is basically how people got there, or creatures. So situated in the Sanctuary Pipeline hyperspace route surveyed for the construction of the second Death Star, Endor is close to the uncharted expanses of the unknown regions. Prior to the creation of the new hyperlane, its location meant that Endor was largely ignored even by the local worlds such as Bakura, Trenwith, and Ferrer, with the nearest major hyperspace route being the Corellian trade spine, many thousands of light years away. Endor was as far off the beaten track as possible to get. Endor also gained an unenviable reputation as a black spot for starship crashes. All but the boldest, most desperate captains opted to steer well clear of it and the hazardous local anomalies in space. The Endor Gate, a small black hole, is one such obstacle which can easily wreck a starship or throw it fatally off course past Endor out into uncharted wild space and the unknown regions. Despite its small size and lack of historical contact with the wider galaxy, the inhabited moon of Endor supports an unusually large number of species ranging from the common to the highly exotic. This is partly due to many starships that crashed there, several of which introduced new life forms and set the history of this small world on a new course. So that makes it rather interesting. So there's species that ended up there that would not have normally been there. So that's kind of interesting. So Ewoks are obviously the best known, and then there's its genetic cousin, which is the treacherous Doloks and the lanky Yuzums. Also native to the amphibious Gorfs, together with other more unique creatures such as the small fairy-like Wisties. Semi-sentient races include the native grass trekkers, aggressive, skilled hunters. Crash a millennium ago is thought to have brought the Gorax and the Flogs to the moon while a crashed ark let loose goats, teaks and guppins. The creatures known as jindas and tolgas had been introduced 130 years previously, and all these alien species were forced to share the land and learn to coexist. Perhaps it was the constant upheaval that gave the diminutive Ewoks the fighting spirit that served them well over the years. So Yuzums, one of the interesting things about the Yuzums is they have kind of some unique attributes. There's different subspecies or what have you. So this guy that performed at Jabba's palace in the um, special edition, he was a Yuzum, and uh, he was actually considered famous. He somehow was able to get off the moon and wanted to go out and seek his fortune. So that was kind of interesting. The Yuzums species exist with wide genetic diversity, with some Yuzums having clawed feet instead of pads or hooves, and others having sharp fangs instead of a wide toothy mouth. Some have pointed ears, while others have none, and a number of Yuzums have yellow eyes, while black is also common. Despite their obvious sentience, Yuzums are often kept as pets across the galaxy. Captives fortunate enough to escape often set up their own colonies on suitable worlds. So then we have the Gorax, which is, I believe, this giant creature known as the Gorax. Uh, Fortunately, they're rare on Endor, as they frequently prey on the Ewoks and other native species. Um, then there's also these Bordoks, as well as the Blurgs, and you would see the Blurg in Mandalorian season 1, so that's significant. And these were easily domesticated species to where they could be used as pack animals and all that kind of stuff. And we'll go through the behind the scenes here. One reason that the species of Endor are so well documented is that the Forest Moon was the subject of two spin-offs, the Ewoks animated TV series, which originally ran from 85 to 86, and two live-action TV movies released in 84 and 85. The latter were developed sometime after the Return of the Jedi, when George Lucas had the idea for a 1-hour television special dealing with the Ewoks. By the time this was released as the Ewok Adventure, later known as The Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure, the made-for-TV movie had grown to 96 minutes, basically a feature film. Its story focused on the Tawani family who are stranded on Endor when their starship crash lands. Parents Jeremit and Katrine Tawani are kidnapped by the Gorax, forcing their young children, Mace and Sindel, to enlist the help of the Ewoks to rescue them. The success of the first movie led to a sequel, Ewoks: The Battle of Endor, or Battle for Endor. Set soon after the first film, it tells the story of Sindel and the Ewoks' struggle against the pirates who have killed Sindel's family and captured many of the Ewoks. George Lucas was reported as saying that further Ewok movies were planned, but despite good reception for the earlier shows, no others were made. I only vaguely remember watching The Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure. I've only seen it one time. I don't remember the second one. I think that even at a young age of 10ish, somewhere around there, 10, 11, I kind of didn't want to deal with just Ewoks. So I wanted to have my starships and heroes and all that kind of stuff, and I wanted it to be Luke Skywalker and all that kind of fun stuff. And I wasn't getting it from the Ewoks, so I never really paid attention to those. So if you guys had seen them, throw a comment in the comment section there. Tell me what you thought of them, how much you remember them, and all that kind of stuff. Repulsor lifts. So these are significant things. So their repulsor lifts can be found on a variety of different things, and from everything from starfighters to starships to skiffs and little swoop speeder bikes. And so that's kind of interesting. Uh, uh, repulsor engines are used to levitate all these vessels over the surface of a planet. The maximum height they can reach depends on the power of the units and the strength of the planet's gravity. But all such craft with their repulsor lift engines engaged appear to hover or float a short distance above the planetary surface, even when parked. The power to propel the craft forward, backwards, right, or left comes from conventional engines, or in the case of luxury sail barges, favored by the wealthy, wind-catching sails affixed to the upper deck. Some of the various larger ships, such as the Trade Federation's Lucrehulk core ships, also relied on repulsor lift suspension, as they are unable to land without the aid of anti-gravity field to support some of the vessel's mass. So basically, the way they work is they have an anti-gravity effect. So uh, they only work if they're within the gravity well of a planet, which is a very small distance by galactic standards. Anti-grav range is approximately 6 times the diameter of the average sized planet, typically around 75,000 kilometers. Some sort of range, some short-range repulsor lift engines, such as those fitted on the popular Soros Sub X-34 land speeder, are characterized by an optical effect. So if you don't know, this was the X-34 um, here. So, and in case you can't see that, that is Luke Skywalker's land speeder is an X-34 land speeder. The Falcon's repulsor lifts, they've got 8 of them. Okay, so this is kind of significant. So there's located here. So there's 2 up in the mandible, and then there's 2 just here on the edge of the ring, about even with the cockpit, or just after the cockpit, really. Then there's 2 towards the outside in the back, behind the central spine, and then there's 2 back here by the rear engines. And so let me hold that up so you can see where those are. So that's where the Falcon's repulsor lifts are located, and they have high temperature blast, which is kind of funny. One side effect is the landing jets generated intense heat, which is normally dissipated by automatic safety mechanisms. However, Han Solo modified the override so the jets can release high temperature bursts at will, and it was not unheard of for Han Solo and Chewbacca to use the landing jets as weapons against unsuspecting attackers of the ship if the ground buzzer belly blaster, that's a mouthful, didn't find its mark. So that's pretty interesting. Behind the scenes. The first example of a repulsor lift seen in Star Wars was Luke Skywalker's land speeder. The battered X-34 featured in A New Hope was built on a chassis of a British Bond Bug 3-wheeler car under the supervision of Tom Caron of Ogle Design, who was also responsible for the original vehicle. During live-action sequences shot near the dry El Mirage Lake in California's Mojave Desert, a mirrored skirt reflected the dust surface to conceal the car's wheels. So there you go. A drivable version of Luke's Landspeeder was built for action sequences with mirrors and camera effects used to conceal its 3 wheels. So there you go. Interesting, huh? That is all there is about repulsor lifts. It's a pretty straightforward thing. And that is all there is about this episode. So again, I'll include some images of the um, the one ship here that they mentioned. I don't remember it off the top of my head now. Oh, there's 2. There was um, there was like the Theta class, and then there was another one that we would need to. I'll need to show the Alpha class XG1 Starwing Assault. So I'll include those as well. So with this issue, we did the beginnings of our boarding ramp, and we got a good portion of that done. but we have all these other parts that we haven't done anything with yet. And then the next issue we'll get our motor. I'm going to guess that we're going to be putting together these parts here because we need to be able to do all that stuff, and then the motor will get mounted later probably. So that is everything for issue 38. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. May the force be with you always.